everyone, welcome to episode 2 of season 1 of the Animal Rights Show with Jeremy and with me. And so what we're going to do is just going to do like a brief discussion, really, kind of just about a couple of ideas about this issue that's arose in the movement about whether we should be concentrating on creating activists first, or whether we should be concentrating on vegan education, which then creates vegans who then become activists. And so there's some concern that activists become vegans, but vegans don't necessarily become activists. And so there's a bit of kind of frustration about that. You know, we've kind of, it's kind of like quite a prevalent thing now, isn't it, Jeremy? It seems, you know.
Yeah, and I think being open to do both, because I mean, if people are drawn to a certain form of activism, maybe a certain form of animal use, a certain species of our fellow animal, I think tap into that. And then I think one of the concerns that's been raised is to not mention veganism too much, or we might scare them off, which to me, I don't think we should personally be worried about. I think we should be willing to broach these subjects, because if people aren't willing to engage on those subjects, they're probably not the sustainable activists that we're aiming for in the first place. Do it obviously strategically, just like we do with anyone else, but I think we should both engage as far as activism goes and veganism goes with whichever audience it's appropriate for.
Yeah, I really in tune with that. And yeah, so it's an issue. I mean, obviously this is to do with the issue of kind of pressure campaigns, and whether to go back to single issues, whether they can be abolitionized, whether they can be kind of veganized, whether they can be incorporated, and whether those two things can mesh together, which is my position probably, that there's no reason why those two things couldn't live together. So if some people want to concentrate on the pressure campaigning, there's no reason why that can't feed into vegan education, you know.
And the other question is if it's rights-based or not, because I think there's campaigns that could be considered vegan, could be considered abolitionist, that it may not necessarily be rights-based.
That's just
I'm just slip that one in there.
that's just a general point about everything, really, though, isn't it?
Well, what is the point of the show? So if I didn't bring it up,
so we've got a guest actually, which can inform this discussion really well, we think. And so we did a little recording with Bernie Wright from the Alliance for Animal Rights. So here we go. Yeah. Okay, so Bernie, welcome. So Bernie Wright, been vegan since the 1980s, and Bernie runs a group called AFAR, Alliance for Animal Rights. So that started in what, 82, was it, Bernie?
No, 89, Roger.
89, all right.
Don't make me any older.
Lucky we had you on, so you could keep things straight.
And so you've been running the Shelburne Greyhound campaign, right?
Yeah. Well, I've been running it for a number of years, nearly back to 89, but it was sort of intermittent with all the other campaigns. But in July, something happened that made me think, let's go for this. And the RTE aired a video called Running for Their Lives, which exposed a lot of the atrocities in the industry. So I figured a lot of Irish people will see that, so now would be the time to focus on this. So I did. I started up the demos at Shelburne Park Greyhound Track here in Dublin, and they went on till a few weeks ago when we had to stop them. We weren't allowed to demonstrate anymore. So it's been going very well. A lot of things have happened. It has highlighted the lives of greyhounds who are used for racing. That is really what we wanted to do. We have the track down to a minimum amount of people going in. At times there's nearly more of us than there are people going into the track. And we've had, say, we normally have 50 or so at the track. We do it every week or twice a week, but we've had 350 or more on the big nights. So we'll continue that anyway. I've also been invited to Boston, which I went and did talks over there on the greyhounds. And
I think the most successful time is when you give away the free cheese, the free vegan cheese, Bernie. But we want.
I wonder who brings that cheese.
Yeah, I wonder.
Strange red and white van comes with the cheese.
So we want to talk to you about this issue about whether it's a good idea to create activists first or vegans first. So obviously there's an issue in the vegan movement about vegans who don't become activists, and then you've got the issue of activists who are not vegan. So you've got an example of people who've become active in your Greyhound campaign, and now they're talking about being vegan, right?
Yeah, we have a lot of people, and to be honest, the majority of people that turned up after seeing the film weren't vegan in the first place, never thought about vegan, I'd say. We also had our own activists there who are long-term vegans and all the rest. To be honest, I went my own way about it. I didn't make a big issue about it. But from Roger turning up with the samples of cheese and the mayonnaise and God knows what else, it got into the conversation. And Roger became known as the man with the cheese. But anyway, people started asking questions. I didn't push the issue. I feel really that if they're told the facts, just let it sit for a while, let them think about it, and I feel they'll get there eventually. Now, like everything else, some got there quickly, some didn't get there yet. So we have a whole range of people who have veganism on their mind. And lately, when I look on Facebook, I realize the people posting about all the veganism and giving out about people eating dead animals are basically, a lot of them are the new people who veganism is now an issue to them. So it's always sort of been that way in a far. People come in and from mixing with you and going out for a cup of coffee or looking for a vegan cake or whatever, the issue comes up. I don't push it because I don't think you can make anybody vegan if they don't want to be. They seem to be sticking around. They're all there on Facebook waiting on the lockdown to end to get out there again. And also, what I didn't mention, Roger, you forgot about, we were brought to the High Court in Dublin for demonstrating. They got an injunction. This is the Irish Greyhound Board got an injunction against us.
Yeah, you're a criminal. You're a criminal, aren't you? You're a criminal.
I'm a criminal. Yeah, they made up this story. Yeah, their famous story is that we put in threatening leaflets in the doors, when actually we know who did it, and it wasn't us. And the judge said it wasn't us in court, and the police said it wasn't us. Everybody vouched for us. They knew we didn't do that. We don't work like that. And we actually won the case. So it cost the Greyhound Board a lot of money, 30,000 to get us into court, and another 275,000, as far as I know, to pay our expenses and their expenses. So it's been a sort of a successful story, really, but we're not at the end of it yet. The dogs will still be back running in Shelbourne Park and dying behind that wall, and there's not much we can do unless we stop it. So that's the aim. We don't want regulations, we just want to stop it and hope that greyhound racing everywhere ends, you know?
It was a shame you won the case, because I was looking forward to seeing you led away in handcuffs and stuff, but it never happened, right? So,
well, I look good in orange anyway, Roger.
So this process of people becoming vegan is a kind of an organic thing. So do you have any ideas about the numbers you're talking about there in terms of, how many would turn up and then how many are kind of going through this process? Any idea about that?
Well, I'd say at this stage, there's a lot less not vegan. Most people have got on to being vegan themselves. They're not questioned and they're not pushed. There has been a few spats, all right, with the wrong people saying the wrong things, but like even with me running the demos, they didn't even know I was running them until I was a few weeks into them. So I don't push people. No. People want to do that. And I mean, Roger knows my opinion is it's no big deal. It's not hard to go vegan. It just means changing the stuff in your trolley and getting your head around it and being careful what you eat, So, I mean, we all have animals around us. So, I mean, how can you eat one and pet the other, really? That's, I suppose, the way I see it.
Yeah, good. I really like how you chose to say dogs who are used to race versus race dogs, to really articulate that that's not their purpose.
They're all here in the other room.
Yeah, because it seems like as far as activism and veganism, the big question is, should we be concerned about, quote unquote, scaring people away by talking about veganism too much or animal rights, and how much we should actually seek those conversations out and kind of build on that empathy for dogs and expand that to in that respect to other species? Do you have any recommendations for maybe other groups and other organizers who are watching who may have some activists who aren't vegan, how to approach those things?
Well, I'm a long time at this, and I suppose it's a personality thing. Some people are more forceful and some people aren't. So I sort of go with how I feel. I'm not saying I don't come straight out with it, I do. But you can't push people. People have to get to what makes them want to be vegan. They have to get there first before they go and choose the non-vegan product. They have to have it in their head. But I suppose what I can't understand is the vegans that are not out on the demos and out doing that sort of stuff. That's what gets to me now. You know, let people get there as regards veganism, but let's get vegans more active. If you care enough not to eat these pigs, why can't you get out and fight for them?
So I think you're part greyhound, really, Bernie. So I want to.
We're all animals, right?
Yeah. I want to thank you for coming on and kind of being our reporter, our kind of roving reporter from Dublin. So thanks for that. And
Yeah.
so,
And
so that was Bernie Wright. So what do you think of that, Jeremy?
Yeah, great guest. I'm always inspired to connect with these advocates who have been doing this for decades. You know,
And
I feel like
and a personal friend of Tom Reagan. So that's
yes.
it's a real plus. In
Yeah, there's some behind the scenes knowledge shared there around what a great person he was. So very interesting.
Yeah, as I said before, I think that these two things can go together, because I think there are some people who, I mean, Bernie mentioned personality. There are some people who don't have the personality for education, and there are some people who don't have the personality for pressure campaigns. You know, that they don't like the idea of, say, doing home visits, which is controversial, for example. There is a space for both of these, but I do think that they need to be kind of meshed together. And then it's
versus being siloed.
Yeah,
absolutely.
So I don't
tapping into people's strengths, because I think the best form of activism is the forms that we're passionate about and can do sustainably. You know, so tap into our strengths and flow with those strengths.
Well, that implies then that the key to that then is that the group that are doing one thing shouldn't attack the group doing the other, and you know, in fact, they should kind of find ways of kind of working together. You know, so to advocate for one thing wouldn't involve attacking the other. I mean, if part of a pressure campaign results in getting some kind of undercover video, for example, or some documents, I don't know, outside, from a lab, say, there's no reason why that can't be given to the street activists for their street, you know, and say, oh, by the way, no, this came out of the laboratory, you know, so those things can live together in the same way as that kind of thing used to happen in the 80s. So I don't see why we couldn't resurrect that part of it. And there's no need to see these two things as distinctly separate at all, I don't think.
Oh, I think solution-based dialogue we could definitely have more of that in the movement. I think around the rights-based discussion and many others, really focusing on what can be done versus, oh, you're not doing this.
So maybe people can give us their thoughts about this in the comments. You know, do you think pressure campaigning, single issues can live with vegan education, or do you think that they're kind of antagonistic? I don't, but I mean, if you do, tell me why. You know, tell us why in the comments. It'd be really interesting.
And maybe in the future we can get some live guests on that can we can explore these issues further.
Yeah, live guests. That's what we need.
Yeah, better than dead ones.
Yeah, we're better for all the dead ones. Right. So on that note, okay, folks, we'll see you again. Bye for now.
See you next time.